Hi, this is Ruth Waithira. I'm happy to have you here. Thanks for watching this video. If you're encountering me for the first time, like I've said, my name is Ruth Waithira of the Soul Clinic. And the Soul Clinic is where we fix your pain, we help you feel good so that you can live a whole life. My main vision in life is to see people thriving and being able to rise above unfortunate or difficult circumstances, to be able to live their best lives and to live in purpose and to live authentic lives. And today I want to address an area which hinders many people from achieving their best potential or from becoming the best versions of themselves. And what I'm talking about today is very critical because romantic relationships play a very key role in either supporting you or sabotaging the best version of you. If you have a supportive partner, a partner who wants to see you become the best version of you, a partner who supports your ambitions, who is not intimidated or is not competitive with you, because unfortunately we have partners that are competitive of us. So maybe you have a lady or a man who, instead of supporting you, they start to feel like you're a threat. They start to feel like you're becoming too much, like you're shining too much, like you need to have your feet cut off and to be put in a certain space, and you're not supposed to grow beyond that space. So if you have such a partner, then it becomes very difficult for you to thrive. It becomes very difficult for you to become the best version of yourself, and you're not able maybe even to scale the heights that you may want to scale. Difficult and dysfunctional relationships also introduce a lot of negative energy into your space. And when you're in that negative energy, your creative is not flowing. So you're not able to show your A game in whichever space that you want to show your A game, and you'll find yourself lethargic. You can't get out of bed in the morning. You're feeling depressive. You have anxiety. So they can introduce a lot of negative energy into your space to an extent that it makes it very hard for you to thrive, makes it difficult for you to pursue purpose. And so that is why you'll find me a lot. If you've been following me for a while, you find me talking about dysfunctional relationships a lot, because I know they have the potential to dim your light. They have the potential to just kill your dreams if you're not careful. So maybe you are there and you're wondering, okay, so how would I know that the relationship that I'm in is dysfunctional, or what we call difficult relationships? What are some of the things that you would look into for you to qualify your relationship as just difficult? And when we talk about patterns or things to look into, I like to say that these things are patterns. So look at patterns of interactions over time. Look at patterns of conflict resolution over time. Are you dealing with someone who invalidates you? Are you dealing with someone who doesn't take accountability? Somebody who doesn't want to be held accountable for their words and for their actions? So if you are trying to establish whether what you are dealing with is a difficult, dysfunctional, sometimes even abusive relationship, these are the things you need to look into. So I want to give you a few things that you may need to look into. The first thing is, do you feel unseen? Do you feel unheard? Do you feel invalidated or even overwhelmed, in pain, confused, anxious when you think about your relationship? So when you're thinking about the relationship with that person, does it evoke these feelings of you are not important, you're insignificant? You've been talking, but you feel very unheard. You've been in their presence, but you feel very unseen. You feel like you have not been considered when they're making decisions, when they're doing life. Do you find it hard to make independent decisions for fear of being judged by their partner, or for fear of being reprimanded, or for fear of being belittled or shamed? So if you're in a relationship where you really have to second guess your every decision, even simple decisions like, where do I go for lunch today? You are in the office and you want to go out for lunch. Where do I go for lunch? Because you have a partner who is very critical even of the small visits, or the color of the shoe you bought. It's a shoe, you walked into a shop, you liked it, you got into your pocket, you purchased it, but then they go home and they shame you based on that. So over time you realize that now you've become very paranoid, even over small, quite insignificant per se decisions, and it's because of the judgment and the shame that comes from your partner when you make such decisions? Do you feel powerless or without choices when you are dealing with your partner? Like you have no choice, you have no voice, you have no word, you have no say. It's either their way or the highway. It's either you are flowing along with them, it's either their decisions are the ones that are seeing the light of day and yours is not. And then you realize that with time you are just like playing second. This person doesn't put you first. They don't consider your opinion. They don't consider your choices. It's either their choice or the highway. Or have you ever found yourself missing out on things and activities you would love to participate in? Places you would love to go, people you would love to hang out with. But your partner is very disapproving of those situations, of those people, of those activities, to an extent that you sit down and you evaluate and you realize, I've missed out on activities or hanging out with people that I would love to for X number of months or even years. And you start to feel like now you're missing out on something, you're missing out on life. This is not how you wanted to live your life. So if you find yourself in such a situation, just know that the relationship you're in is very dysfunctional. Do you feel like you're walking on eggshells all the time? Like you've got to be extra super cautious about what you say and about what you do because your partner is always getting triggered. They'll get triggered, they'll rage at you, they'll give you silent treatment, they stonewall you, they demean you, they say bad things. So you feel like you're walking on eggshells. You can't be yourself. You can't speak your mind because anything small or big and everything, anything and everything seems to be triggering them in a certain way. So if that is the kind of a relationship you're having, then you may need to evaluate it because it's most likely very dysfunctional. Do you have very little say in how they spend their money, yet they have a huge stake in yours? So they'll make purchases without considering you. And I'm not talking about small purchases. And small or big purchases also depends on the level you are financially. So they'll make a huge financial decision or a decision that has a huge implication in your finances as a family, as a couple, but they are not involving you. So for example, just to take it a bit, you may just wake up in the morning and you realize there's a car in the garage. It was bought, nobody asked you about it, nobody involved you, your opinion was not asked for, they have bought land, and now this becomes a habit. Then you realize it's like you really are not part of their life. You are in their space, but you're not part of their life. Does your partner refuse to talk to you days on end, months, or even years? They'll give you silent treatment. Why? Because you raised an issue, and they were uncomfortable, and they didn't want to be held accountable. It's also because they have a life behind there. They are running a parallel life behind what you know, behind what you see, and they don't want you to know about it because they know the more you talk, the more you engage in conversations with them, the more it's likely going to slip, the more it's likely going to come out of their mouth, and it's something that they are doing and they don't want you to know about it. So if you feel like that is the relationship you're in, then you need to evaluate. You need to evaluate whether it's healthy, whether it's functional, because being in such a relationship puts you in a very negative energy space. And like I always say, when you have a lot of negative energy that is happening in your space, it cuts your creative. You can't be the best version of you. You can't access the very authentic parts of you. So that's why it's important to evaluate for these things. Or do you feel like your relationship just revolves around your partner? It's only their needs that are important. So they'll meet their needs at their terms, your needs at their terms. So they will do the things that you want to be done when they want them done. While on the other hand, your life simply revolves around having their needs met. Because if they have needs that are not being met, then the whole space becomes so toxic. There is a lot of negative energy hanging in there. It becomes impossible for you to function there. So you find yourself to stifle or to diffuse the negative energy. You really have to go out of your way to make sure that their needs are being met. And finally, does your partner get in your way of relationships with family and friends and colleagues by talking ill of them? Because what you may not realize is that this is normally a tactic to isolate you from your support system. So they'll talk ill of people. or triangulate you with people. They will say this about someone to you, then they go to the other person and they say something about you to them to make sure that the relationship you had there is not flowing, to triangulate you, to make sure that you have no friends, your family is suspicious of you. So if you ever require a support system, then you don't have it. So if your relationship falls in the category of the things that I've talked about, if something has resonated with you and you feel like this is the space you are in, then it's time to evaluate whether this relationship is healthy for you. Is this relationship supporting the version of you that you want to become? Is this relationship pushing you to the best versions of you? Is it pushing you towards reaching your potential and being authentic and living an authentic life? And if you feel like that is not so, it's time to reach out maybe to a therapist or a counselor or somebody who can help you process that. Or it's time for you to make decisions that are supportive of you, supportive of the version that you want to become. So it's always a pleasure to have you here. If this information is something you'd want to share with relatives and friends, please go ahead and share. Let's spread the word. Let's cultivate healthy relationships, because it's only in healthy relationships that we're able to thrive, we're able to become the best versions of us. And once again, this is Ruth Waithira of the Soul Clinic. At the Soul Clinic is where we fix your pain, we help you feel good and live a whole life. And if you like the videos that we are making, the advice that we are giving you out here, please follow me on Facebook, Ruth Waithira. Follow my YouTube channel for more relationship tips and keep sharing.